What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. As you can see, we've got another project in the shop that you haven't seen yet. Gentleman in my neighborhood a couple weeks ago dropped this off and wanted me to get it running for him and touch up a few other things. What we have here is a 1964, class of 1964 Honda CA102, also sometimes referred to as Super Cubs. When he brought it to me, it was already, it had some light restoration work done on it, but it didn't run and it had some wiring issues. Let me throw a picture up on the screen for you real quick of what it looked like the day he brought it over. So as you can see, it's complete. It's a pretty nice looking bike. I'm just going to do the usual. We're going to drop in here for a quick walk around on the bike up close. All right, the usual quick walk around, which is really in pretty good shape. It's had some paint work done, new seat cover, new tires front and rear, new muffler, engine's been cleaned up pretty well. Overall, new fenders. Also the rest of the plastics that have already been removed were new. But this is going to be a pretty straightforward one. Not a whole lot of cleanup or refurbishment that needs to happen here, which is good. All right then, I don't know if you can tell, I'm sweating profusely here. It's hotter than donut grease at a fat man's convention right now in Alabama. So I'm trying to do the best I can. I do not have air conditioning in my garage yet. And pay no attention to that. That's just a stage prop I threw out here to get your attention. So here's where we're at. First thing I did was check for spark when we got the bike. It did have spark. It's worth noting, this is a 50cc horizontal motor, but it's not 50cc horizontal motors you would think about, you know, as an example, like a Z50. This is an older version that is it's a push rod engine. The camshaft is in the block. It's not an overhead cam. So other than the 50cc's, there's not really any similarities between the two. This one is also an electric start model, if you can believe that it had electric start back in 1964. These came also in non-electric start versions. The electric start versions do not have an ignition stator coil, so you must have a fully charged battery in the system in order to get spark out of them. So got through all that, got some power hooked up to it, and she had good spark. So the next thing I did was I took the carb off, which is vastly different than any carb I'd worked on before on Hondas. It's old. Cleaned up the carb real good, put her all back together, ran it through my usual stuff, and believe it or not, I got it running. I'm going to throw up a video clip real quick of this bike running. So, as you can see, she runs, but there's a couple issues. Number one, it will not start, or I'm unable to get it started with the Kickstarter. Number two, the electric starter is not functioning. And number three, the only way I can get it to start is by using the old drill on the end of the crankshaft trick, and it'll start. So that kind of led me to believe that there's something going on here with this bike. So I think what we'll do is, I suspect, oh, and the other thing is once it gets warmed up, it smokes like a freight train. So, and I'm talking oil smoke. So I think what we need to do is we're going to run a compression test on it real quick on film and let you guys watch that. And we'll see what we come up with. This is probably going to determine what we do next. Also, if you're wondering why is it all taken apart, well, part of the reason it's taken apart was for me to get to the bottom of the wiring issues. There were some issues with some of the controls and the throttle, parts missing, and then the front fork steering stem is extremely loose, and I don't know if it's just needs to be tightened or if it's actually missing the bearings. This has got the loose ball bearings, just like most of the smaller older Hondas had. So anyway, let me get you set up here, and we're going to run this compression test real quick before I sweat to death. All right, guys, got you in here set up where you can kind of see what I'm doing. Obviously, to run a compression test, we got to remove the spark plug. I've only got this in here finger tight at the moment, so it won't be a big deal. I'll pop that out of there real quick like. If you're paying close attention and you're familiar with the other later model horizontal Honda engines, you can see there's quite a bit of different stuff going on here just externally. So I've got my compression tester. Let me go ahead and get this adapter put in there real quick. All right, so that adapter's got an O-ring on the end where it screws into the head. So really just, snug that up. And then my particular compression tester has got a quick release, much like you'll find on your air hoses with your air compressor. All right, so I'm gonna put that up there when I run this so y'all can see what the gauge is reading. But to do this, it's best best to spin it with a drill. That way, you're getting a good spin on it. You can do it with the Kickstarter if that's all you got available to you, but I like to just do it with the drill. So I would hope. I don't know what number we're looking for here. I haven't been able to find any real good info on that, but one would assume 100 psi or better would probably be somewhere in the neighborhood where we want to be on this. So let me get this spun up. Oh, pull my little cover off the carb. One more thing, when you run compression tests, you're supposed to have your throttle on your carburetor stuck or locked wide open. Normally you'd have the twist grip, you could hold it, but in this case I don't have the twist grip throttle on, so I've got the cable kind of clamped in a way that holds the slide wide open. Of course, make sure your choke's off too. Kind of defeat the purpose if you still got your choke on. Let's spin this up and see what it looks like. 14 millimeter socket on the end here. Remember, you're turning counterclockwise and use a drill, not an impact. You use an impact, you're going to loosen that up. All right, here we go. All right, 50. I don't know that that's going to cut the mustard. Let me reset this and we'll run it a couple more times just to see. Whoops. I don't need to run it a third time. That's clearly our problem. And I suspect since it's smoking so bad, it's probably rings or a worn cylinder bore and or rings all combined in one. Don't really suspect that the may have a burnt or bent valve, but we'll get into that. Let me get this tooling here cleaned up and we'll get back at it. All right, well, 50 psi of compression is certainly not the number we were looking for. So as they say, this just escalated quickly. So it looks like next steps here is going to be to tear off the top end, inspect everything, figure out what we need parts-wise. Hopefully nothing's damaged or anything like that that's going to require us to source any major parts. It's worth noting, again, this is a 59-year-old motorcycle, and parts are not exactly growing on trees for these anymore. And they don't have nearly the following that like the CT70s and the Z50s have. So there's not a lot of stuff out there in the aftermarket reproduction realm either. As an example, I've been trying in anticipation of this, trying to find some standard bore piston rings. And what I have found are quite costly, but we'll see. Hopefully we don't need to bore this out. That's not the route I want to go down, but it certainly needs to be fixed because it smokes pretty bad once it's running, and you can't kickstart it. What good is it? So looks to me like this is going to be part one, and we're going to get into another one of those series of videos. But I'm going to try to move quickly on this one. Hope to get it wrapped up here in the next foreseeable future, so I can get it back to the owner so he can enjoy it for what it is. So as usual. If you're not subscribed and you like what you're seeing here, please subscribe. Tell your friends, if you got any Honda friends, tell them to check out the channel and like the videos and all that good stuff that everybody asks you to do. And thanks for watching.